morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Living with Ess. I am Sharon Mundia, and we are at the beautiful Myra Residences by Trianum. It's on, what's this road called? Kindaruma Road. Beautiful place if you're looking for a long stay area. Now, today's conversation is all about conservation. The two guests that I have on the show are passionate about wildlife, and they've dedicated their time, their energy, their money to just this topic. I've got Jim Nyamu, who's been here on the show before. So welcome, Jim.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He is the executive director at Elephant Neighbor Center. His passion specifically is for wildlife in general, yes, but specifically for elephants, right? And then I've got the young, but still like holds her own space, Maureen Some, who's the founder of WildNow Foundation. Both of you are just so incredibly inspiring.
Thank you. It's amazing.
Wow. So Jim, I have to start off by asking, how was the walk? And first, if you don't know, Jim does this really crazy thing where he walks for thousands of kilometers across countries to try and raise awareness around elephants and the conservation and the fight for elephants. Isn't that right?
That's true.
Yeah. Wow. Nyamu, how do you so how was the last one?
Actually, I'm not even remembering because it was last year, but it was something that I'll never forget because there were some challenges. We started with the challenges in Tanzania, both the political and terrain. But when I went to Zambia, again, things changed. But when I reached Zimbabwe, is a country that I would want to actually to retire that country.
Oh,
yeah,
what?
It's a beautiful country.
Wow.
The response, I worked with the 45 schools. Wow. The vice president received me in Harare. Yeah. That's why I was honored as the comrade by the government, the political bureau, the ministers. But things changed when I went to Botswana. After walking all the way to the second largest city, this is Francistown, I was given 48 hours to leave the country by the government, and this was more because of the political heat on the elephants, because there was a new president, there was a new policy that they were working on. So I had to go back, and that's how I decided to go and walk again in Malawi, a beautiful country, where the government came on board and supported me. But what amazes me was the decisions by Zimbabwe. We've been naturally people blaming Zimbabwe over issues of allegations of selling live elephants and all these things. But the thing is, the ZIMPAC, equivalent to Kenya Wildlife Service back home, have never received any support from the government. So what they're trying to do is to sell anything they have to run an institution. But I had a meeting with the board of trustees and the ZIMPAC director. And after I came back home, I found already the Foreign Affairs, the Kenya Wildlife Service, had already the message of the goodwill that we were able to inspire them. Right. And very soon after the CITES, which is happening now in Geneva, they want to join Kenya in the campaign against ivory trade.
Oh, good. Oh, and to know that your work is having an impact must be so fulfilling. And even for you I can say your age, can't I?
Yeah,
right?
it's fine.
She's 18. I can't believe it. And if you've seen videos of her on YouTube, you'll be shocked because the animals she plays with are not the dogs or cats I used to play with as a 17, 18-year-old, but cheetahs. Tell me about that. When did that become an interest to you?
It's the love for animals, not the love for just cheetahs.
Yeah.
Initially, I wanted to adopt an elephant since I was small. So I grew up in Laikipia and used to have our house in the middle of the forest. So we used to have elephants coming over. It's in a place called Majani. So one of the greatest threats in that place is actually human-wildlife conflict until today from the elephants. Yeah. So we used to have hyenas, antelope coming over, and I used to be so mesmerized seeing majestic creatures at night when people are like, why are these animals crashing our land or our shambas, Yeah. And when I joined Brookhouse and I wanted to do my own wildlife project, I started by going to KWS volunteering, and I decided, why not adopt a cheetah, DJ? And I think that was the best thing I've ever done with my life. So yeah, this marks actually our anniversary.
Right,
with
1 year
Gigi.
anniversary
Yeah.
today.
Yeah,
It's her
today.
1 year anniversary, and she's spending
Yeah,
it here. So thank
exactly.
you.
Thank
And
you.
it's so interesting for you to say it's the best thing you've ever done with your
Yeah.
life. And I'm like, to know that for so sure. I mean, so clearly at 18, and I can only imagine at 30 what you'll be able to have accomplished. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe she'll be walking to the moon at that point. Like, I'm walking to the moon.
Yeah.
I figured out how to do it. I'm walking and I'm going to save all the animals.
Yeah.
So just to throw it back, I mean, Jim, I know we've had you on the show and we've heard your story before, but maybe you could share, what was your passion for conservation, something that started out as early as in your teens?
I'm actually excited to hear her story. I've watched her documentary.
Yeah.
And I think she's on the right track.
Yeah.
I
Thank you.
started what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Even now, leaving the house now, I had a problem with my cat because the cat just the cat know that I'm now leaving, so it's just coming. And I had to say, sorry, Becky, I must go.
Oh gosh. So how many pets do you have?
I have one, but I'm
Okay.
looking for a dog now very soon, just
Okay.
Get one.
to keep
Yeah.
some in
Yeah.
my house.
Okay.
But I started what I'm doing, the passion of conservation, when I was actually in class 7. I am born in Abadeas, and there used to be a lot of, that time is when the ivory trade and killing of elephants was legal in this country. And so there was a lot of gunshot all the times. And actually I was attracted to conservation by hyena.
Yeah.
Because there was this one big hyena that was killed by, because of human wildlife conflict. I still even today remember how that hyena was looking like, they were still opening their eyes, the woods, and I could see the fat in the, inside the wood. And after that, and I was like, why are people killing hyenas? Then the following week, boys at my age brought elephant meat in the school. And I could see how they were eating. But during the rite of passage, my uncle was a student at Kijabe High School. He was a chairman of Wildlife Club of Kenya. So he brought me magazines, Koba magazine, which is a Swahili name for a bush baby. And I was going through the magazine, so you can imagine about 8 days reading page by page. And I came across a story by Komodai Girls about the conservation of elephant in the southern part of Abadeas. And I got inspired. If these are students writing these in high school, I got to join this club. So when I went to the high school, there was no club. So I founded the club in the high school.
Oh my gosh! Wait, I have to pause you there because it sounds so uncanny.
Similar,
The stories
yes.
are quite aligned.
Yeah.
So can you? I just want to jump to
Okay.
you for a second to tell me about you starting a club. Now that you've brought that in, how did that come about for you? And I guess I'm so curious to know how a teen, because for me, if I remember my teenage years, I was so insecure. I was more worried about, is my skirt short enough like the cool girls? Does that boy like me?
Yeah.
So were you worried at all about being cool? What, does it fit in? Like, what drove you to step
I
into
think
that? So
for me to start the
seriously?
project, the wildlife project in Brookhouse, I was tired of always going to school and coming back at home, doing assignments, go back to school. It was a normal routine. And I was in a point in life I wanted to make a difference. And I was figuring out, what am I really good at? And I realized from a young age, from growing up in Laikipia with wild animals and adopting like 20 street cats when I was like 8, I realized I'm really good with animals. Like, I'm an animal whisperer.
Yeah.
So what can I do with that? So I approached Kenya Wildlife Services and I told them I want to start volunteering. So when I was going around learning more about the orphanage, the safari walk, I came across DG. And I was like, I'll volunteer and I'll also give my time and my money to this cheetah.
DJ,
my
your
cheetah.
cheetah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I started doing that, more students wanted to be involved. They wanted to do the same thing that I do. So I'm glad that Brookhouse actually gave me the platform to actually start the project and really have more students actually visiting the orphanage with me.
Okay.
So I believe that's how it started.
Okay, I think I get it. So it's your passion led you to KWS, and then because of that interest, it fell into place that it was the right time and place to start a club.
I always say, if you trace your steps back to when you're a child, you'll realize that small things that you're doing, actually, they are whispers.
Pay attention.
to the whispers. Exactly.
It's always pointing you closer, so you just have to be alert. So back to you, Jim. So you start.
I started the club in high school, and my history teacher, whom I respect even today, I asked him if he can be the patron. He had no idea about the club, so we kept on contacting my uncle, who was a student, who helped me to come to Nairobi. I remember it was my first time, because now we just came from Tanzania. Now I was not very new in town, so he told me all the way when I was in Form 1. Now I went to Langata to register the Wildlife Club. And I met the Wildlife Club teachers and patrons, and I told them my story. Actually, they registered our club free. They said if it was the initiative, it was 300 shillings that time. So they give us the certificate. And one Canadian girl who was in the country on an exchange program said she wanted to come to our school. Back home there, I'm trying to convince students. I had 40 students. More of them were actually Form 1s, because Form 4s couldn't understand my...
Right.
Yeah, this is Mono here who can't tell us anything. But the third term, the lady came all the way to our school. So when people saw a white person has come, actually by the time she came to screen the documentary of lions and other animals, now the following year when I was going to Form 2, I had so many students who joined the club.
And look at that.
And they joined the club not because of me who was struggling there, but because they saw the person, the white person. Right. But later on, the club grew. Actually, we started now visiting parks, visiting places.
And look, as a in your as a teen, to be able to have such impact. So I want us to take a look at DJ. Right? Soma's cheetah. Is it really yours, or you've adopted it?
That's the other thing.
What's the technical?
When you adopt an animal, that's one thing people don't understand.
Yeah.
When you adopt an animal, you don't keep it at home.
Right.
It's a wild animal. You adopt it and it stays in the Kenya Wildlife Services.
Yeah.
But
is it? But
she's a foster.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is like a parent.
All right. I love it. I love it. So take a look at Soma with DJ and her story.
My name is Some, and I see myself as an entrepreneur and a conservationist. My cheetah goes by the name DJ, and I adopted him when I was 17 years old. I grew up with wild animals in Laikipia, and I always say if you want to connect your passion, pay attention to the whispers. So it took some time until I was 17 years old that I actually understood that this could actually be my purpose, this could actually be my calling, and I enjoy giving back to wildlife. What I do is every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, I go to Kenya Wildlife Services in the animal orphanage, and I clean the cages for all animals. I feed the animals, I do food preparation, and I just tour the tourists around and tell them about the animals. So basically that's how I give back to wildlife. I donated my money and I donate my time at the same time. I run a program, a wildlife project in Brookhouse that focuses on giving students an opportunity to actually volunteer their time to work with Kenya Wildlife Services in the animal orphanage or in the safari walk.
We can inform people and ask them if they want to join our weekend program where we go to the animal orphanage and we help out with the animals, we clean around the cages.
Through this program that I actually give them a platform for them to bring out their ideas about conservation, not just in Nairobi or in KWS, but also in Laikipia, to overcome human-wildlife conflict, and that's what I'm focusing on right now. So we can do it as a school or even as a club. So the youth in Kenya are actually both about conservation and they want to make a difference. We all do want to make a difference in our environment, in our society. And one of the challenges that the youth face is lack of programs to bring out their ideas. Institutions, different institutions that are focusing on conservation, they don't have programs for the youth to actually bring out their ideas, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we are facing currently as youth. My biggest advice has to be involved, and be involved now. It's never going to be easy. There are challenges, it will take some time, but that's what it takes being a leader. So if you have an opportunity to make a difference in our society, in our environment, do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow.
All right, so that was a BBC documentary. The whole time you were petting that, I was just like, oh, what's your fingers? Your fingers. But I know, I mean, like you said, you must be so calm around DJ. But was that always so? And what drew you into the cheetah specifically?
First of all, it's not petting. You don't really advocate for petting of wild animals.
Okay.
But then with the cheetah, they're very vulnerable. It's very easy for them to get along with human beings. That's why when you're going on a safari, you find cheetahs jumping on their cars, and it's not a big deal.
Because
cheetahs,
they're
very vulnerable. It's not like a lion or a leopard.
Yeah.
And why a cheetah?
Wait, so it's not petting?
That's not petting.
What is that?
Well, I entered the cage and it was all over. Like I was just getting to know him. It was so petting.
From the biology part of it and the social behavior of animals, they respond by. You find every animal, have ways of interacting with you.
Yeah.
I have adopted several elephants, and the moment I visit them, they recognize you.
Exactly.
So, oh, really?
Yeah.
So
wait, so does DJ recognize you?
First time I adopted DJ, it was a challenge because I entered with like a duffel bag.
Okay.
So they sit like a toy, you know that?
Yeah.
Especially cheetahs.
Okay.
So it kind of pounced on me, and that's, now you start understanding the animal more. So when I started volunteering, it started getting used to me. So it wasn't really a big deal entering the cage. Mind your
but
business.
does it recognize?
Yeah. Literally, it does.
And how do you know when a cheetah recognizes you?
When you enter the cage and you're scared, first of all, there's an instinct that you will just know you have a bad feeling being around. Yeah,
but I'm asking, like, how do you know it? Does it like come to you and like
go around you like a cat? Not really. Being a vulnerable creature, it will just mind its own business and pass you as you clean the cage or whatever you're planning to do around its cage.
That is insane.
You should visit the park,
I know.
actually.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to. Part 2 of this. Please take me. If
You
you
need
won't
to-
come here, I'll come too.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can adopt hyena. We need more people to adopt different
Actually,
animals.
there's Coco the hyena. It's the most amazing. They are underrated, yeah? Hyenas are beautiful creatures.
You know what?
I think it's one of my favorite creatures. If someone is to ask me what's my favorite creature, after elephant, cheetah, comes hyena.
Okay, I
be
need to
very
know
honest.
more about that because that's not the image I have in my head. We do have to take a break. When we come back, we'll see if I will adopt a hyena. Maybe. Everybody, we're at Myra Residences by Trianum, and I've got 2 incredible conservationists with me, Jim Nyamu and Maureen Some. So before the break, we were talking about DJ, cheetahs. You brought up hyenas. Well, who brought up a hyena?
She's on.
Did you? And someone said I should adopt
You
one, and I was like,
should.
what? But like, so how do you know? I mean, and I'm curious to. Well, one, I'm curious to find out about your rapport, and you told me about DJ and how you ended up, adopting DJ. But I'm curious to know how you ended up with elephants. 1 and 2. How do you Is it just natural to feel like there's like you are connected to an animal, or do you have to? How do you build that for someone who's generally quite trepidatious when it comes to animals?
I think for me, it's something I was born with.
Okay.
Like, for example, when I was young, my mom tells me this until today. I would cry if my cat is not there. I wouldn't eat. I don't see anyone unless my cat is there. So I think it's something you're born with. But then at the same time, we are living in a world where all of us have to embrace wildlife one way or another, because it's a serious problem.
Yeah.
So we are trying to reach out to the people. For example, I have friends who they deal with conservation with me right now, but then they don't have the drive that I have.
Right.
But then at the same time, they know that our wildlife is in a crisis.
Yeah.
So you have to embrace it.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you?
Now
narrow
I
down
ended
on
up
elephants?
after my studies.
Yeah.
By the time I was finishing Form 4, I got a scholarship to study wildlife management, a degree in Tanzania. Okay. And my first assignment was in a place called Manyara Tarangire National Park, where again, as a student, we're just doing sampling of elephants' dung. But when I came back home on a recess, I got attachment to KWS, and my first assignment was to do census of elephants in 5 forests. Well, that was Mount Kenya, Aberdares, the Rocky Crisia in Marara, Shiba Hills, and Nanabuko, and we were counting elephants. I was already baptized by the Tanzanians, counting elephants. So here I came, but I was counting elephants that I don't see. Because in Mount Kenya, you don't count elephant like 1, 2, 3. But later on now we had to do the aerial survey and also doing DNA analysis, collaring them, like I collared them, and I was very, very excited to see how elephant behaviors, how they breathe and all these things. But what I was doing, I was looking at the poo-poos. How many times does an elephant defecate per day? How many times does it go to poo-poo per day? And then how long does that dung takes to decay? And then how many balls, we call them balleyes, they drop per dropping. Those were things that we are now doing, and we realized that a mature elephant defecates 17 times per day.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
You know,
yeah.
And then per defecation, they defecate 13 balleyes.
Okay,
the
so
balls.
it's this journey that drew you in closer to elephants, you'd say?
Yes.
So when you're because I also know it's not just about liking an animal. I think for you it's very clearly also about trying to bring as many people around to try and fight for the conservation of wildlife, education as well. So when you're what other animals are endangered that and you would like to sort of highlight in this conversation? And I mean, I know even starting with Sudan, who passed away last year as the last remaining white rhino. Is that it?
Yeah.
The male northern white rhino.
Yeah.
So are there certain animals that you feel deserve a little bit more attention, or you would like to bring more attention to?
Well, I'll talk about one of the animals that we've been working on as the organization is pancake tortoise. That's one animal. The pancake tortoise.
Pancake?
Yeah,
tortoise,
the
yes.
pancake tortoise. It looks like a tortoise, but it's like a pancake. It's flat. It has a flatter shell and it's like a gel. So it really doesn't form like that shape.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So the
what about
pancake tortoise? They are mostly in Kitui and Mombasa, and in the southern Kenya and northern Tanzania. But currently, we only have 500 pancake tortoise because of trade
in Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Kenya, so we have 500 because of trade, and most people are keeping them because of pets. They want to have them as pets, so we only have 500 in the wild. So we've been doing
in the wild or in Kenya?
In the wild in Kenya.
Oh, in the wild.
Yeah.
In the wild. Okay.
So we've been doing research about it, and that's one thing that people really need to focus on, because you already know about the pancake tortoise, but they actually mean a lot in the ecosystem. We are losing the species of tortoise in the world, including the pancake tortoise, and they are very special because they don't really enter the shell. They hide in rocks. That's why they are very flat.
So fascinating.
Exactly, and having 500 left, that's a crisis.
Actually, they are one of the discussions at the Geneva now, because the Kenya is proposing the pancake tortoise to be in Appendix 2, you know, because of the habitats and also the trade.
To be in Appendix 2? To
be in Appendix 2, because at the moment they are not critically endangered, they have to be registered.
Right.
They have to be given international attention.
Okay. Yeah. So are there other animals that you would highlight in this?
Obviously, yes. Like the hyenas are actually in Nairobi Park.
Okay.
The boys that rescued them, I adopted them from Taita. They are my boys now. Those are those are actually the African hyenas. They are endangered species, and because of the reason why they are endangered is because of the habitat loss, you know. And then obviously there are aspects of bongo, you know, the bongos in Mount Kenya, and then actually sitatungas are also endangered. You know, some are even becoming endemic. You know, we focus on the big species like the elephant, but the other species, you know, you're talking of even the caracals.
Another big species that people don't focus on is the giraffe.
It's also being pushed to be in the Appendix 2, again because of the habitat loss, not more the trade, but it's because of the habitat loss. Because you can see even in Naboseri, actually 90% of the giraffes are not in the park. Outside the park, and outside the park is where there is a lot of challenges.
Right. So obviously, it's for the two of you, it seems like animals were such a natural part of your journey, and that your love for them is truly, you know, profound. But there's also, for many people, there's a human wildlife conflict, and that discord between do you just let the wildlife be, or like how do you protect, preserve? So what are your thoughts on that? How do we try and like
human-wildlife conflict to start with. Why are we not talking of human-wildlife coexistence? But we talk about human-wildlife conflict. Actually, I advocate for the elephants and people. Elephant, lad, and people striking the balance. The moment we lose wildlife, we lose people. So we bring the two of them. And the reason why I find the human-wildlife conflict is actually on the rise is because the expansion of human population is actually eating more space on wildlife. Change of land use, like what is happening in Aboseri, the land subdivisions, those lands, like in Kimana, for instance, that was an extension of the park, whereby animals the elephant used to go there to forage, communities used to graze there. But now the land has been taken over. There is now farming. So what has happened is community have lost the grazing area, and the same area now, which is farming, has become human-wildlife conflict. So then the other thing, it has changed the culture completely. Now Kimana is urban center, which used to be now the rural regions, and there were many things that was happening. So the Maasais have lost the grazing area. That's why they're bringing cows in Nairobi. Then they have lost their culture. So the reason why human-wildlife conflict is actually escalating, one, the government is not compensating them. They promise they will compensate them, but they cannot be able to compensate, because compensation means looking at the problem, not solving the problem without long-term solution. The long-term solution is to advocate for landscape conservation. Leave
landscape conservation.
Areas that are not arable, let them be like that.
Okay.
We cannot open the whole of this country to be farming area, because some areas are not arable. But now what people are doing now, there is haphazard farming. And by that doing, we are even farming on animal corridors, dispersal areas, foraging areas. By so doing now, conflict.
Right. Goes up,
Human-wildlife conflict is one of the subjects that we really focus on, especially in Laikipia. And to me, I don't see it as human-wildlife conflict necessarily. From even what you're trying to put, it's more of human conflict, because we are the ones who've encroached on the wildlife habitat, if you think about it, and we've closed the corridors for the animals. So it's really the elephant migrating to the human land. It's more of our problem to them, because this is a normal thing to them. They're supposed to use that route to migrate to Amboseli, to Savo, but we've closed down on the wildlife corridors. So it's more of human conflict, and we can solve that by, educating people about it. Don't encroach. We are snatching away too much of the habitat from wildlife, and then blaming it to human-wildlife conflict.
And I think you touched on it a little, ways in which we can reduce,
mitigate,
and mitigate it. So what are some of the ways that you think? Because the truth is, the numbers are getting higher. There's more and more people, and I obviously there needs to be a conscious use of resources and that awareness. But how do we coexist? What are some steps?
One of them is awareness first. So 2 weeks ago, elephant came all the way from Laikipia to Gong. Where are they? What are the animals telling us? They moved from Aboseri to Machakos, and they are on their way to Kora. What are they talking about? We need to create awareness. Animals have rights. Equivalent of us, we have rights. And we begin by saying, I left my cat crying. We can't separate ourselves with these animals. So we have to actually change our attitude. I did the first publication towards a new conservation model. We must change how we used to live. What has happened in Laikipia? Laikipia is the second largest home of animals in Kenya, but there is no government park. So the government here must come strongly, not just talking. We must have a policy now. Getting support, also bringing communities, like the communities that are creating space for wildlife, who are communities, indigenous communities, community in general, where are they in support of conservation? Just to take you back, Soryu Ranch is supporting conservation. Is Soryu Ranch a game reserve? Is Soryu Ranch a park? Is it a conservancy? Who benefits from what is happening, whatever that is happening? What I'm saying is the government must come strongly, not just compensating. addressing these things. And as Kenyans,
Yeah.
we must talk to the Kenyans.
Right.
Yeah.
Speak to each other.
Speak to each
So
other.
have you, in the projects that you've started, have you witnessed a change, or what are some of the things that you can say that, some of the shifts that you've witnessed that you can share that maybe people can sort of take on? Maybe we won't walk 4,000 kilometers or start clubs in high school.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know what are some of the shifts that you've witnessed.
There's a difference in our wildlife, especially from 2013 to now. There's approximately 85% of poaching has reduced, and 78% of poaching for the elephants has reduced. So 85 for the rhinos and 78 for the elephants. And that's a big number. So that means that the government is actually taking initiatives to actually reduce down on poaching. And the local community is trying to be involved. People are being educated. There's awareness, as you're trying to mention. And one thing is, I believe, giving the community alternatives. For example, why don't you embrace tourism and not focus so much on poaching? From 2013, we have the poaching for rhinos has reduced by 85%. And then poaching for elephants has reduced by 78%. And those are big numbers. And I think the government has taken big initiatives, and the local community trying to be involved in actually making a difference in our environment and keeping themselves busy. For example, rather than depending on poaching and ivory to gain income, giving them alternatives, like the lady who started Ushanga, selling beads to the tourists and everything. You're embracing tourism. By embracing tourism, you're embracing wildlife. So
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things I would say, my campaign has taken over from regional to national to international. Yeah? I would say, like, when I did my work from the US in 9 states, the government of US, because it was one of the consumer, they destroyed 6 tons of ivory in my presence in Denver. So that was a big, milestone. Then the work I did in Bristol, from Kensington to in London, the government of UK, who are major source, last year they actually crossed the domestic trade. I was a guest at the House of Lords discussing with the Lords. Them, they're talking of the trading and how is the trade involved with, how are they related with poaching. And obviously now the work that I just finished in Botswana has also brought in the region together in terms of understanding which country has more elephants now. But what I've seen again back home here, we have the First Lady now who have joined us, and awareness need more people, not just Jim who works in the village. People need to associate myself with someone else. Our former CS, Professor Judy Wahungu, played a significant role in amplifying the campaign well. And previously, people didn't understand why I'm doing the work. But now I've brought in, corporates are coming now, schools are coming now. But what I've seen that have really changed the minds of many people, even in the media, is we actually are advocating for Africans. Previously, I would say, I would look at the NGO that are doing conservation in Kenya. I probably could be the only one who is a Kenyan person, because the others have international theories. They are, WWF, IFO, the Born Free. They are not Kenyans organization. So we need to focus on the Kenyans ones. And the other thing that we have seen, and have heard Masai saying, the pastoralists saying this, they focused on tourism so much. But now they need to, because imagine somebody in Marsabit has set as a conservancy. How many tourists will go there if the security is not well guaranteed? So we are not helping them. Don't do conservation for tourism. Do conservation for landscape. Like I mentioned before, when you create space, you have enough space for grazing. The other thing, we are doing this for heritage.
Yeah.
And it is through the heritage.
Yeah, and if you even think about it, the fact that, our children, or children's children will not be able to see, or your children for sure, will not be able to see.
Because what has made so many communities previously, like we had so many communities that had started conservation, because we introduced create space for conservation, tourists will come. But now there are no tourists who would go there and see only one animal.
Yeah.
So community give up. Why did we do these things? So they start now subdividing that land. But if we introduce from the word go, we are not doing this for tourism. We are doing this for our own benefit.
The thing is,
sorry, we've got to take a break. We'll be right back. And we can like jump into it because I do think there's so much to talk about, and it's so layered as well, so that everyone is left happy. But we've got to take a break. Do not go anywhere because we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gents. I've got Some and Nyamu here. So Some, I want to hear from you as a young conservationist. I'm sure you've attended so many conferences or just had, been in rooms with people who live, breathe wildlife conservation. So are there campaigns that you're excited about, things that are happening that you feel that you're more drawn towards that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think the Rip-Off campaign has been one of the greatest campaigns.
Right, which you're a youth representative for, aren't you?
Yes.
Can you tell us about what the Rip-Off campaign is?
The Rip-Off campaign is about the elephants, actually, and it's about the board passes. So we know when you're alighting a plane, you usually rip off the board pass. Yeah. So it has like a part where it shows the elephant and the ivory. And you can actually scan the card and read details about ivory trade, about the elephants in Kenya. So it's called the Rip-Off campaign. So that's what most people don't know about it. But it's been one of the...
How long has it been running?
Like
almost a month now.
Oh, so just...
it's just recent.
Is it across all airlines
it's Kenya Airways.
Kenya Airways,
yeah. So it's Kenya Airways.
Okay.
So that's one of the best campaigns that I've been involved with. Like I've been able to interact with the First Lady, the Ministry. Richard Branson is in the campaign, which is an amazing thing, knowing that it's not a Kenyan thing, it's a global issue that everyone is trying to be involved in. So it's been amazing.
And so the idea is to inform people. Is that the idea, that by scanning you get to have live updates on
the elephants and ivory trade as well?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's actually more of, that's our slogans for the CITs.
Okay.
And so not just the fact sheet of elephants, it's basically even what's happening, the new solutions. And it's a combined effort by Kenya Wildlife Service, mooted the idea, and the KQ as our national carrier picked that to give it an appealing to the world. Yeah. So it is actually a Kenyan positions that we want our position as a country to be heard by anyone who is traveling using KQ.
Right.
Yeah.
So Nyamu, talk to us about the Horn of Africa walk.
Yeah.
It's upcoming.
It's coming very soon, 14th of September. I will start the walk from Nairobi. I'm still looking for the venue, either KICC, and looking for more guests. I know some have registered. I have quite a number of about 15 ambassadors from both international and Africa. And I'm going all the way to Eritrea. Eritrea is the smallest country, and Eritrea have actually lost their elephants. And
wow, when you say lost their elephants,
they have lost their residence elephants completely.
Wow.
And I would say the rationale behind me going to Eritrea is because Eritrea is in East Africa as a region. East Africa, we have 89,300 elephants. And Ethiopia has 1,000 elephants, but some still spill over to Eritrea. And why I'm calling it the Horn of Africa is because I'm supporting the government of Ethiopia, because they have a national campaign called the Creating Awareness to the Communities on the Importance of the Wildlife. Because about 70% of the country is arable, but they're losing the space, they're losing animals and the space as well. So the government has come on board, and you saw they are planting 5 billion trees.
Wow. So
I've met the ministers in the Ethiopia, Asmara, to try now and support them, amplify their campaign.
Right, yeah.
And I will be passing through Embu, Meru, all the way to Isiolo.
Meru, my hometown.
Your hometown, actually. I am in touch with your governor there.
Okay.
And also the governor, all the governors actually, because apart those regions, I want to bring the government, the local government, the regional government, the county, the MCAs, to show them how important the animals, not only elephants, the animals within their region are, and how they can even implement some regional law towards conservation.
So you're walking over 3,600 kilometers.
In 120 days.
In 120 days. And Nyamu, what is your intention? What do you hope to raise?
This is
or
my
change?
15th walk edition.
Yeah.
My intentions actually is it's one area that people have never focused on creating awareness. Awareness is better than better than even policy, because people understand these and bringing community close to the government. And the other thing is that I'm trying to show even some areas are very peaceful. You can not only walk, but you can also fly. I'm bringing the East African region together. We need to work together. If I'm bringing you by walking, then we should harmonize, because there is actually a call to bring the region all together, like the South African, they work as a region. Anything that they are doing from security to conservation. But as in East Africa, we forget that Eritrea, Ethiopia were part of us.
So actually, when it comes to the standards, the bar, which countries in Africa are doing really well and are really proactive when it comes to conservation? I'm just curious.
It's actually Kenya. Kenya is one of them, and in Zambia is doing the same. And Gabon.
Kenya is actually is it the only country that actually tried to initiate the penalty law for complete life sentence when you do poaching?
Tanzania had done it before us, but lacked the support from the government, or rather from members of parliament. And what Kenya now is actually, Kenya is pushing for we have something called the African Elephant Coalition, and Kenya sits as secretariat. And the African Action Group, Kenya sits still there. Kenya wants to be the voice. Remember when the President Kenyatta came in power 2013, he said, Kenya is going to be the light of Africa. So what we're trying to do is to amplify that light.
Right.
And by him destroying 109 tons of ivory and 1 ton of rhino, it was to show the world and the people that there is no intrinsic value on ivory in this country.
So from both your stories, it's clear that your passion, and especially for you, Nyambu, that completely guide your career path, and it seems like it's going to be the same. It started and it was, the foundations were built in high school, or at least when you were quite young. What would you say to the youth, to young people right now, so that they too, maybe they will not walk as far as you're walking, and maybe they may not dedicate their careers to this, but what would you say that would spur them to want to do more, or to just at the very least be more considerate of wildlife and of themselves as stakeholders in this?
I think I'll always say this, be involved in whatever way possible. You might not be able to adopt a cheetah, but I'm so sure there's a way you can always give back to the environment.
Can you give examples of what that could be?
Photography. If you love photos, you can go to the park and take a photo of the lion and state facts on your social media. That's something very small, but accumulates to something way bigger. So I believe it's just use your capabilities. If you're good at art, draw animals. You're sending a message. So be involved. And it's about starting to wake up and say, today I'm going to make a difference.
I love that you've given those examples, because it might feel like, wow, if I do not start a club by 17 or class 7, if I don't get like 400 students to join, it might be overwhelming, but those are some good tips. Jim, are there any others that you would add?
My take is that I had one challenge, my parents, particularly my mom. I didn't say that I got a chance to invite to go to Canada when I was in Form 2 exchange program. I couldn't go because my mom here, my parents, I was too young, didn't even passport. So you see, my passion had a lot of challenges. Nakata shure, all these things, So the thing here is the parents needed to listen to the young, particularly the young, at that age. If you see them actually carrying whatever they're doing, it doesn't have to be animals, whatever they're doing, listen to what they're doing, nurture their talents. And then the youths, they needed to look at these things. Everything is not communication. After everything, we need to focus on environment. Dearly, because at the end of the day, we need to drink water. We need to eat food. We're breathing clean air. What are we doing? And I'm very excited to see young groups of people planting trees. We need to think about now educating people about the relationship between what tree bring to us. The other thing is, why do we need these animals to us? Because as I said earlier, there is a symbiotic relationship with the animals. Elephants communicate to us so much. Their behaviors are more of human being. If you go to cheetah and other animals, there is that relationship. And the other thing is that this is now to the whole country, to the everyone, not to young people, that we need to know when we lose animals, we are losing people. The next thing that we lose is human beings.
Yeah.
Because if we lose the forest, we lose the landscape, that's where we survive on the landscape.
Yeah.
So it's a combined effort.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for
You're
enlightening us on your projects. Actually, Nyamu, how can people participate if they wanted to help?
Yeah,
be part of the
we every day I walk 30 kilometers.
Okay.
Every day,
Yeah.
and I stop in those towns with the public address system.
Okay.
So we are live on Facebook, Twitter, Jim Justice Nyamu,
Yeah.
Elephant Neighbor Center. If you just Google Jim Justice Nyamu or Elephant Neighbor Center, you'll see all those avenues, from Twitter, Instagram, and there is an active people who talks every day. You said a question and it's get an answer. Along the way in Meru, all the way to Isiolo, Marsabit.
Right.
Please join me and come and walk.
Yeah. And what about you with the WildNow Foundation? How can people, how can people be a part of it or show support? Summer?
For the youth.
Right.
Because I usually target the youth,
Yeah.
because WildNow is completely youth-based, from the founders,
Right.
trickling down to the hierarchy. So in whatever aspect you can give back to wildlife, feel free to reach out to WildNow in the website, on our social media, WildNow on Instagram, everywhere. And we've come up with so many programs, keeping in mind that we understand what the youth want, what they need. So we relate more on coming up with creativities and fun activities for them.
Okay.
So,
Oh, good.
Thank
So that's
you.
another avenue.
Yeah.
If you do want to participate or
Yeah.
help WildNow Foundation.
Yeah.
I also thank you so much for giving us this chance to speak to the world. It's an honor, Let people hear from us and, NTV through you. That's an honor to give us a chance.
Bless you.
Come and talk.
Bless you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, ladies and gents. I mean, you heard it. It's really simple. It could be as simple as just going to the park, taking a picture and stating facts, just being more aware of how much energy we're using on a daily basis. And if you are in the area that Nyamu is walking, join him in the walk, But whatever we do, I think what's become so clear is that it's not their struggle. It's not them. It's not the conservationists who have to fight and we continue living our lives. It really is our problem. And so let's try to do something about it. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We'll be back same time, that's 8 a.m. Tomorrow here at NTV. Thank you to Myra Residences by Trianum. We will see you tomorrow, but for now, have a great rest of the day. Adios.